Merry Christmas, everyone. And hopefully everybody had a safe and sound Christmas. Hopefully everyone enjoyed their time with their family. I know I did. I know Michael did. I'm going to ask Michael here what he did in his Christmas, but my Christmas was pretty freaking good. Michael, sir, how was your day? How was your Christmas?
Oh, it was good. It's been a long day, and so just a little bit tired at this point. But we had a good Christmas. The kids really liked everything that they got, so it was,
Hmm.
that's really what it's all about at this point. So I would say it's a success.
Hell yeah, man. Are there any like gifts that your kids got and you're like, damn, I didn't know they got that?
Almost everything.
Yeah, man.
Uh,
I
you know,
was like, what the hell?
yeah. I mean, most years I'm involved for at least like part of it.
Yeah.
But this year it just didn't work out that way. My wife went on a very early and aggressive shopping spree,
Uh-huh.
and I just didn't have, I was very busy. It's my busy time of year, and I just didn't, I didn't know what they got as much as they didn't. So
Okay.
that's the way it went this year.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. I mean, I'm looking at my son's toys. I'm like, I know what I got him, but for the most
Hmm.
part, I have no freaking clue what my wife
Yeah,
got him. So I'm
yeah.
like just as surprised as he is about some of the stuff. Yeah, man, I will say this, man. We almost got attacked by a freaking dog today while walking around.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, I know, man. It was like my brother-in-law's dog. We were all walking as like a group, and this dog just came out of nowhere and just like attacked our dog. And I thought the
Mm,
dog took a chunk of I thought the wild dog, let's call it wild rabies dog, like
mhm,
took a chunk off of my brother-in-law's dog, but
mm.
it did not. And I don't know, a bunch of weird redneck inbred looking hills have eyes people were owners of the dog, of course.
Oh boy,
Yeah,
jeez.
man. Yeah, man. It
Mm.
was a creepy situation for sure. I know this sounds crazy, but I'm kind of like upset with myself that I didn't have my gun on me.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of those situations you might need it.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
man. You don't
yeah.
know the craziness in the world. Even on my
No,
Christmas day, I'm thinking like, okay, going for a nice little family stroll, and all of a sudden
yeah,
this wild dog comes out of nowhere. Blink of an eye, I'm like grabbing my son and then
yeah,
goes
sure.
right for the dog. It was like split second. And I'm thinking to myself in retrospect, man, I probably should have shot and killed that dog if I had a
Yeah,
handgun on me.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
Wow.
everyone, just remember, even on Christmas Day, make sure you carry a gun or some kind of form of protection because you never know what you're going to run into.
Yeah, that's right. Hold on, let me turn this light on. I just realized I left one of my lights off, and so that's why I've got this weird shadow. So, uh,
Oh,
yeah. So 1 second.
hopefully people like my little Christmas tree off to my corner here. I'm actually not at my house, everyone. I'm actually at a little bit of a actually not a little bit, a freaking lake house. I've been
There we go.
celebrating my Christmas. I was
It's a
just
little.
telling the audience that I was celebrating Christmas at a lake house, and I sent
Yeah,
you some of the views, Michael. It's pretty
yeah.
freaking
It's very
amazing.
nice.
Yeah, man. So before we get into like, obviously everyone, this is the Cotton Bowl preview. But before we do that, Michael, do you have any like favorite like Christmas movies that you like? Anything that comes to mind?
I do. And before I tell you about that, if you would like and subscribe, those of you that have subscribed this week, thank you so much. Those of you that have watched thousands and thousands of views this week, thank you so much. We appreciate that. So like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Yeah, I I like the Chevy Chase Christmas Vacation. I think it's
Hmm.
just kind of it's a different kind of comedy, but it's a comedy that I certainly enjoy parts of it, and it's a Christmas movie, and so to me, that's kind of a Christmas classic. We watched that this year as a family. We don't watch it every year, but we watched it this year.
Okay. It's kind of interesting you say that. I got that for my wife for Christmas because that's like dang near her favorite movie of all time. I made sure I got her the 4K version.
Okay, yeah,
So we watched it like in the middle of the day, and yeah, it's an okay movie. I think I like the first Vacation better than Christmas Vacation. Christmas Vacation's okay.
yeah,
But I think, I'm like one of those people who likes the movies that are not like truly Christmas movies, but are movies like, that were like that occur with Christmas in the background, like
right,
Gremlins. Like I love Gremlins.
okay,
Gremlins, but I also love Bad Santa. You know what's a
Mhm.
really good underrated Christmas movie is Reindeer Games.
I've never seen it.
Okay, that's a like a mind fuck movie at the end.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a really good one. And Batman Returns. We just got watch Batman Returns, and I consider that a Christmas movie. I don't care what anybody says. Anywho, we're not here to talk about Christmas. Christmas is long and over. You know, it's done. It was a great day and everything, but we're here. We're here as Ohio State fans, Michael. We're here in the final game of the season for
Yep.
the Scarlet and Gray, our Ohio State Buckeyes, the Goodyear Cotton Bowl against the Missouri Tigers of the SEC.
Mhm.
And this is a chance for Ohio State to absolutely get a win against the SEC. And I don't care if Missouri isn't a traditional SEC team. Ohio
Right.
State has lost their last 2 games against SEC teams and are without a win against 2015 since 2015. So,
Mhm.
Michael, initial thoughts on this matchup? Are you excited? What are you feeling over there, sir?
Yeah, I'm excited. I think it's a good test for a new quarterback, Devin Brown. I mean, it's not like he's going out and playing some team that is not of any value. I mean, he's going out there, and we're going to see what he looks like against the top 10 team. And it looks like
Mhm.
most everybody's going to be playing besides maybe Marvin. I don't think he's going to be playing. I don't know that I've heard 1,000% that he's definitely not, but I certainly would not anticipate him to be playing. But other than
Mhm.
him, I think most everybody else is playing, so it should be a winnable game. And anytime you can get a win against an SEC team, it's a plus. I don't care if it's a traditional SEC power or not. When Georgia beat Nebraska some years back in the Outback Bowl or whatever it was, it certainly put a loss on the board for the Big Ten versus the SEC, even though Nebraska wasn't a traditional Big Ten power. I don't care if it's not one of the traditional ones. I want to get a win against the SEC team. We've only got 2 postseason wins in history against the SEC. That's kind of pitiful, really.
Mhm.
And this is a good opportunity to pick up number 3, and they really need to go out there and do it. I think Ryan Day needs to end on something positive. I think a loss here would be, it wouldn't be detrimental to Ryan Day, but it would be another, kind of almost death by 1,000 cuts. It would be another little sting in the Ryan Day era that just
Mm.
would leave a very unsatisfying taste in the mouth of Buckeye Nation.
Especially with how weak this recruiting class closed. A loss to Missouri, and we're about to break down Missouri, but a loss to Missouri in the state of the program right now would just be that would cut really, really deep, and there
Yeah,
would be a lot of hemorrhaging there, and it'd be hard to sew up that wound.
yeah.
Ohio State would be in serious trouble losing to Missouri.
And since our recruiting show, the
Yeah.
class did drop to 5th from 4th, so it is now the 5th class
Mm.
in the country. And before we get on into the game, all of those that are saying, like some at Bucknuts, but all of those that are saying, oh, well, he has one of like the second highest average star rating. Look, I don't care. Okay. Because, the class is the class because of how good it is and how deep it is. And Ryan Day for 3 consecutive years has not been able to put together deep classes. So I
Mm.
don't care if the average star rating is second. This is a 5th rated class. It's another small class, a second small class in a row because guys fell off at the end. And, people point to some of the schools ahead of them getting 25, 26, 27 players and say, if we would have had that many players, our class, but we didn't. And so when those teams are consistently getting another 5, 6, 7 players a year over the course of 3-4 years, that's another 15, 20, 25 players that they have to work through and to develop and to see
Hell
which
yeah.
ones take off and which ones don't, that Ohio State doesn't have. And that's why it matters. And that's why you don't count the average star rating, you count the overall class. And yeah, we fell to 5th. So that wasn't great. But there is a good opportunity to win this game, I think, Jay.
Correct. a lot has happened between the last game against Michigan until now, as we all know. A lot of transfers, but nobody of real importance outside of Kyle McCord. And you really have to ask what Ohio State's interest level is coming into this game. And everything we've heard makes it sounds like they are absolutely wanting to win. Good news.
Mm.
Um, just about everyone, like you mentioned, of draft eligibility is going to play outside of Marvin Harrison Jr. Because let's be real, they all had down seasons and they are just not getting the draft grades they wanted. So they're looking at this as, possibly a stepping stone into putting out enough film to get drafted, but most likely we're going to get a lot of guys back next year. We'll talk about that once it's like actually finalized, but I will say this, don't give me this BS so that they're going out there and playing for Ryan Day. They are not, because they still have a lot to prove. And if they play well, they could still leave. And
Mm.
let's be real, Marvin Harrison is not playing in this game. So this is not a situation like Alabama had last season in their Cotton Bowl, where Bryce Young and Will Anderson both
Yeah.
played. Two top five picks. Marvin Harrison's going to be a top five pick. I don't see him out there playing. So the people trying to say, oh, the culture is great and stuff. Well, these guys aren't all first round picks opting to play. There are people trying to fix their draft position. So you can't really say the culture is good.
Yeah, I mean that's not like it's not one way or the other. Maybe it's good, I don't know, but this doesn't necessarily prove that it's good because like you said, there are personal reasons why they're needing to go out there. If JT Tuimoloau was hands down being told he's a top 15 pick in the first round, then I highly doubt he's going to be out there playing. But I don't think he was told that. I think he's, the mock drafts have him at the end of the first round. I guarantee you a lot of the people consulting him were saying there's a very good chance you'll fall into the second round. And so, I think that's why him and of course, Emeka, he's definitely not a surefire first or second rounder with the year he had. And so he also has something to prove. So that's where they're at, but I'll take them. I'd rather play this game with those guys than without them.
A lot of, I will say, let's talk, before we get into Missouri, let's talk about the history of Ohio State versus Missouri. I know we played like 2 times in the mid 90s, Michael. You probably remember that better than me.
Yeah,
do you
was
that?
Opening game of the season. I believe it was either 97 or 98. In fact, I think it was 98 opening game of the season. And maybe even 99. But I do remember that opening game. It was I think it was a Friday night game. Strange situation for
wow.
That was back in the Katzenmoyer years. I do remember that was during Andy Katzenmoyer's 3 years. So it was one of those. And I remember that they won pretty handily. I remember being a little bit nervous about it back then because Missouri was a solid team, but it wasn't nothing that gave Ohio State trouble that night.
I know that Andy Katzenmoyer had it wasn't like a big hit, but like in 1990. Okay, so I'm looking on here. They played in 97 and 98 in back-to-back years. And the 97 game, Andy Katzenmoyer had one of the most textbook tackles you'll ever see. Just clean and took Corby Jones right off his feet, the Missouri quarterback at the time.
Yep.
But they won 31-10 in Columbia, Missouri in 97, and then 35-14 in 1998.
Yep.
The last time go ahead.
One handily both times.
Okay. The last time I remember Ohio State playing Missouri in anything, and I know you probably won't know this because you don't follow the basketball team as much, but Ohio State and Missouri actually played in the 2001-2002 basketball season in the second round of the NCAA tournament. And that was Missouri fans, I know you're probably going to be tuning in, but I do your team that year was crazy good in basketball. Kareem Rush, Ricky Paulding, I think it was Arthur Johnson. They were loaded in basketball. I don't know what it was, but they kind of struggled in the Big 12. Yes, back when they were in the Big 12 that year. But they had a couple NBA guys on that team, and they smoked Ohio State in round 2. It was back when the Jim O'Brien years, and Ohio State didn't recruit very well in basketball. And that's the last thing I remember of Ohio State, Missouri, anything.
Yeah, I mean, Missouri was an odd choice to the SEC to begin with. They kind of would have fit a little better with the Big Ten, but they chose to go on down to the SEC, so be it. Love to pick up another win against them, which would also be another win against the Southeastern Conference.
Did the Big Ten even want Missouri? Like, let's be real.
I don't believe so. I don't really think that they did at that time.
Yeah, I don't think they did either.
You know, and now there's expansion. Little more smoke about the possibility of Florida State. You know, I've seen things that the SEC does not really want. Florida State, Miami, and Clemson. There's a lot of resistance there, so maybe we'll get into that in the off-season talk about the expansion. But Missouri is an expansion team, but they've been in the SEC quite a while now. And here's my case with this: it doesn't matter how long they've been there, whether they're a traditional power. They went 10-2 in the conference this year, so you know that's what matters. They competed very well at a very high level in the conference this year. So you beat that team, that's a nice win.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Not gonna complain about a win against a, you know, a good SEC team. They are good. They're not great, but they are good. So now, like we did for our Rose Bowl podcast, by the way, thank you everyone for all the views and likes and comments on that. It's turning out it's probably going to be our #1 video after the Michigan meltdown one. It's probably going to surpass that in the end, Michael, honestly.
Yeah, it's well ahead of it on pace. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I think it was a Michigan podcast that really got us going, but this one is like, it really cemented us as taking off. But have you been able to study? So we're going to break Missouri down for the, you know, as much as we can position by position. We'll start on offense. Michael, have you been able to watch any of Missouri on offense, any of their personnel, anything along those lines?
Yeah, I mean, I watched. I did watch Missouri play once this year, almost an entire game when they played Georgia. I watched the majority of that game, and you know, they certainly are a better offense than Ohio State would typically have played this year. You know, we've been over that Ohio State did not play very strong offenses. I think that's pretty obvious. And Missouri certainly is a capable offense. So it's going to be an interesting test for this pretty good Ohio State defense. You know, to see what they can do and how they can stop this attack that Missouri puts together, which is pretty strong.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, this is going to be, I don't know if the best, you know, statistically, I guess they probably are the best offense we're going to play. Do I think they're a better offense than Michigan overall? I don't know. That's, you know, that would be something I'd have to really, really break down there. But just speaking on Missouri's offense, just about all of their offense is out of the 11 personnel, which is 3 wide receivers and 1 tight end, or 10 personnel, which is 4 wide and 1 running back. And honestly, I'm not sure any team in the Big Ten outside of maybe Maryland does that.
Yeah.
They do throw to their running backs out of the backfield, as well as Luther Burden, who does line up next to the quarterback sometimes. Most of their deep ball action damage comes from hard play action rollouts. So they're not really a traditional drop back, but they are a lot of misdirection play action rollouts. Brady Cook is their quarterback. I think he's like a 5th-year senior guy. They use him as a designed runner at times, but a lot of his damage are on delayed draws. So when they are going 10 personnel, they'll drop back and they'll wait a few seconds. And he just takes off.
Well, you know, better be accounting for that with the linebackers. You know, I guess Steele and Tommy are playing. They better be ready to gobble that up when it happens.
Man, is Tommy for sure going to play?
Well, I haven't heard for sure, but I'm assuming that he will. Yeah, I get that it would be nice to go ahead and move on to the next phase and get the next guy up in there. But I'd say he probably is going to play.
That's unfortunate, man. I would just hope he would just take his losses and move on. Nothing personal against the guy. I just don't think he's a very good football player. I think he just sucks. I mean, he's overrated. You know, I can count on like one hand. You know, he made a couple flash plays against Utah. He had that one interception against Iowa last year, but he's just kind of like a guy out there, and all he does is get exposed against teams like Missouri or Maryland or Penn State and Michigan,
he does.
Georgia.
I think with Tommy, you know, he was not very good at all when he played as a sophomore, and then he was much better as a junior. And I think that he maybe got more credit than he should have because he did get a lot better. But just because he got a lot better didn't mean that he was like an elite linebacker. He's still
Mm-mm.
just an above average to good linebacker. You know, that's kind of what he is. I mean, you could say he's a good linebacker, but when it comes to really making plays and making an impact in big games, he hasn't been that kind of linebacker, throughout his career.
Again, we don't have to tell you guys. I mean, the people that have been listening to us the most know that we judge players on what the players give you in the biggest moments in the biggest games. I don't really
Right.
care what you do against Kent State, Bowling Green, Akron, Michigan State, Illinois,
Right.
garbage teams like that. I care about what you give me against the best teams, and that's how I grade who the best players are. Anywho, moving on, Michael. So Missouri has a nice little running back. Actually, he turned out to
Mhm.
be an All-American. Cody Schrader is his name.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Do you know him at all?
Yeah, I mean a little bit. I mean he's certainly a playmaker back there and somebody
Hmm.
that this defense is going to have to account for. And I don't think this is going to be a game that like it's going to be 21-17. I really don't. I think this is going to be a game that Ohio State's going to need to score 30 plus points
Hmm.
because their defense is good, but I would be surprised if their defense held Missouri to less than 21 to 25 points, somewhere in that range. And so, I mean, I guess obviously you could score 28 points and win, but I'm just saying to be safe, I think Ohio State needs to get some points on the board because I do think they're going to give up some.
Yeah, well, yeah, Cody Schrader ended up being an All-American, which is crazy considering he was a former Division II walk-on.
Yeah, yeah, a crazy story. Yeah, a Division
Yeah.
two player that ends up being an All American in the SEC. So
Hmm. Watching his film, he's definitely good, but you can see why he's a former Division II guy when I do watch his film. Um, he gets everything out of his ability, but he's not like a true speedster
right.
for being as small as he is. I think he's like 5'9", 212 pounds, which is, I mean, obviously weight wise, that's really good, but like he's, short and he's not a long speed guy. He's just one of those guys that gets every last bit of talent out of him. And, he's pretty good at reading the running lanes too. So he's a very patient runner as well. So,
Mhm.
but he's not going to wow you with any of his athleticism. Moving on to wide receiver though. Do you remember Mookie Cooper?
Briefly, he was on the Buckeye roster. I
Hmm.
don't really know anything about him. I just know that he obviously transferred out, saw opportunity elsewhere, and has been a pretty solid player there at Missouri.
Okay. Yeah, so he was part of Ohio State's 2020 class. That was that class that had like at the time as Ohio State's like greatest wide receiver recruiting class of all time. You had Julian Fleming, you had Mookie
Hmm.
Cooper,
Hmm.
um, shoot, man, other names escape me, but very, very loaded 2020 class. G. Scott eventually made the transition to tight end, but he's still with us. But
Hmm.
Mookie Cooper was in that class, so interesting storyline there. I mean,
Hmm.
he wasn't with the team very long. I think he left after a season. I think he literally left
Yeah,
after one season.
yeah.
But I mean, this goes without saying. People have really followed Missouri, but Luther Burden is the story of their passing game. Former number one wide receiver prospect in the country from the 2022 class. He is from the St. Louis area. And when you
Okay.
look at Missouri's roster up and down, they really have kept the best players in Missouri home.
Yeah, and I mean that's starting. That's a solid state. It's not a super high talent state, but
No.
you do have a little bit of top end talent there every year.
Hmm.
You've got usually a handful of guys that are ranked between 92 and 90. Even a 5-star now and then out of there. So there is some talent there in Missouri.
No, for sure, for sure. I actually have a cousin that lives over there in the St. Louis area. Maybe I can. I don't know if he really follows the high school level
Hmm.
that well. Who knows? But speaking of Luther Burden, I've tried to watch him some. He's not very big either. Like Mookie Cooper is only 5'9", by the way. Um, Luther Burden is 5'11", not very big, and he's not. I look at Luther Burden. He's not really a speedster either, but he's very crafty. He has
Mhm.
great hands. He's one of those guys that just comes up with the football when you throw it
Mhm.
up one on one, and he just finds ways to get open. Their other receiver, Theo Weiss, he's probably their biggest receiver of the three.
Mhm.
He's like 6'2", former Oklahoma transfer, composite top 100 guy. So they have, their receiving core is by far the most talented receiving core Ohio State
Yeah.
will have gone against, with
Yeah. Well,
a 5-star and 2 top 100 guys.
I knew they had to get transfer talent, because when I went back and looked at their recruiting classes, they have not recruited well over the last 4 cycles. I mean, you're
Hmm.
talking rarely are they in the top 20 on the, in their last 4 cycles. Maybe once or twice out of the last 4. And so they don't have high level talent as far as their classes that they bring in. But, when they're supplementing these classes with these transfers,
Hmm.
it's all hit, and it's equal to a pretty good team this year.
Yeah. Somebody said, I don't know if I was listening to somebody or reading it, but the teams that are still doing the best in college football aren't rebuilding their rosters from the transfer portal. They're still building most of their roster from high school recruits, and then, picking and choosing in spots for the transfer portal.
Yeah, I mean, the transfer portal, you're going to be able to have success, like Michigan State did a couple of years ago. Maybe Missouri is in that. I don't know. I mean, certainly their high school recruiting has not been at a high level. I mean, they're not recruiting in the top 15 in the country like ever. And I think one of their last 4 classes might be in the top 25. Like, they've been out of the top 25 at least 2 of their last 4 classes. So they're not recruiting at a high level that way. So you can put it together in the portal. It's hit and miss. So sometimes it'll hit, sometimes it won't. But nobody has proven to be able to year in and year out build a team without high level high school recruiting and just adding talent out of the portal.
That's interesting you talk about talent, Michael. So I just decided to look into this in the middle of this podcast. So we know Ohio State is the number 3 ranked team in the country in the talent composite behind Alabama and Georgia. And Georgia and Ohio State are basically flip a coin, and
Right.
it is what it is.
Right.
6 of one, half dozen in the other for that. But so they're 2 and 3. But then you go down the line, you have to go all the way down to the 25th ranked team, and that's Missouri.
Yeah. And
Like, their
that's
talent
including
low, yeah.
these transfers, that are there. So yeah, they have not recruited at a high level, and they don't have
Mm-mm.
near the talent that Ohio State has on its roster.
Yeah, their talent level is equivalent to a team like Nebraska, because their star average, again, I'm not going by total points because,
Mhm.
they're like some lists I know every team has the same amount of guys on each roster, but the talent composite, I think, is only taking in guys that were actually like ranked and
Mhm.
putting it into their formula. So their star average for their entire roster is 88.02. Nebraska, on the other hand, is 88.04. Ohio
Mhm.
State star average is 93.32.
Yeah. So a lot more talent on the Ohio State roster.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, not even
And
close.
so this is not an equal talent
No.
game for Ryan Day. And generally, he does pretty well in games that are not equal talent. So we'll
Mm-mm.
see now. A few years ago in the Rose Bowl, he took a Utah team that was probably similarly talented to this Missouri team. And I mean, the defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. So, it was a
Mm-mm.
very close game. So we'll see how this one goes. Hopefully we'll end up on the same side of the win-loss column with a win, but hopefully a little stronger performance than there was in the Rose Bowl back a couple years ago.
Yeah, I think we had some defensive guys out for the Rose Bowl, though. I think we had some guys on the defensive line not play that game, and on top of the defense being pretty horrific in
Yeah.
2021.
Yeah, we
Um,
did. And I mean, and Utah had a running back playing corner.
yeah, he was actually on TV the other night.
Yeah.
Micah Bernard.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
I got that pick right, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, Northwestern won, man. I called it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
What
You
was the
picked
score to
Utah,
that?
14-7.
Nice. So the Big Ten starts off 1-0. When is the
Yeah,
second game?
Minnesota plays tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay. So that's
Well,
game.
actually, everyone, when you watch this, this is going to be the day of that game. So we're filming this Christmas night.
Yeah. So Minnesota plays today when you're watching it. So they play on Tuesday.
Minnesota plays today at
The Big
2:15 at
Ten's
the
1-0.
NFL.
So yeah, so yeah, if you haven't checked out our Big Ten preview show, you can still go back out and take a look at that. Still plenty of games left.
Absolutely.
And then of course the last two previews were done standalone episodes with Alabama, Michigan, and then this one. So Jay, what do you think about the defense? Are you ready to discuss
Yeah, let's
that?
move on to the defense for Missouri. Uh so their defense, they actually just like Jim Knowles run a 4-2-5 and pressure heavily. So Ohio State should have some familiarity considering Knowles does the same thing. They blitz a lot. Knowles doesn't really blitz a lot, but Missouri does.
Yeah.
One thing I picked up on in the games, two games I watched the most. I did watch Georgia, and the other game I watched them play. I really watched the game they played against Kansas State early in the year. I checked that one out as well. But they're always blitzing on third and medium to long. So when I say blitzing, I'm not saying like they're like rushing like, a couple guys but then dropping some other people so it seems like they're blitzing. No. My definition of blitzing is 5 or more. I always look at the number of people attacking the quarterback, and they on third and medium to long, they're always bringing 5 or more. In coverage, they are heavy cover 3. So, for instance, this is going to allow them to roll a safety into the box for extra run support and defend, and still defend the vertical passing game some. But this is going to make them vulnerable to 4 vertical concepts. With their aggressive style of play and how undersized they are, they're going to be prone to giving up a lot of big plays. Because I will say this, Michael, when you first look at them, like just looking at their defense, they're not very big. I mean,
No.
I mean, their offense kind of is the same way, but like you look at them on TV and they're like, these dudes aren't very big. I mean, both starting tackles, defensive tackles, I look like are under 300 pounds, and their one end, Johnny Walker, is only 6'3", 244 pounds. So they're just very small.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a lot of factors with the Ohio State offense. You've got a new quarterback running it. You've got the centerpiece, Marvin Harrison Jr. Likely not playing. But I do think that even with that, there's opportunity to put some points on this defense. And Ryan Day, when you can put him in a room for a month and let him like tinker around with plays and come up with stuff, that tends to be his strong point. Now, once he hits the defense early and the defense adjusts, his strong point has never been to readjust and continue staying ahead of the curve. But he can get ahead of the curve there to kind of start a game when he has time. And I guess I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to look for that. I'm going to look for him to be aggressive and creative with his play calling early in this game. And I'm interested to see what that'll look like if they can capitalize.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Continuing on their linebacker position. So here's the thing. The best linebacker on their team is Tyrone Hopper. He was a second team All SEC selection. He suffered a sprained ankle against Tennessee, though, and he actually isn't playing. He has not played a game since, and this is their best linebacker, Michael.
Yeah.
So their best linebacker.
Good.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So he's not playing. The next guy that sticks out at linebacker is by the name of Chuck Hicks. He's like kind of built like Cody Simon. 6'1", 230, so not quite as tall as Cody, but similar build. So their best linebacker is not playing in this game, already with an undersized line. So right then and there, I'm starting to really think like, okay, Ohio State's in business now. And then to cap it off, and the secondary, across the board, nobody. I mean, well, there is a name that stood out, and I'll explain this here in a minute. But in the secondary, they have some length, but are without one of their best corners in Ennis Rakestraw Jr., who is supposedly a top 5 corner in the upcoming NFL draft, Michael. So right now, Missouri is without their best linebacker and one of their best corners.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly would think that Ohio State can get some things going. I would think that they could win the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball.
Yeah,
Uh,
and their other linebacker, I think their best linebacker outside of what I just named was Tristan Newsom. He's from Mississippi. He's got some length. He's 6'2", 222. So probably more athletic than what Ohio State has. But I expect to see Cody Simon in this game more for Ohio State.
and I think that if Devin Brown can show a little bit of threat to run the ball, and I'm talking about just like when it's open, when there's an open lane, he's willing to take off and take the 6 to 10 yards through that open lane. I think that's going to create a lot of opportunity to make it easier for Ohio State to move the ball and to get opportunities for Trey as well.
Yeah. So that brings up a good discussion point here because let's be real, Michael. Devin Brown is starting this game. Maybe Lincoln Kineholz plays some. I think he might play a little bit on some
Mhm.
designed runs or something.
Yeah.
Maybe a trick play, but I believe this is Devin Brown's game. I mean, Ryan Day came out and said it. This is Ryan Day's game. So we haven't seen much at Devin Brown. Did I say it was Ryan Day's game? This is Devin Brown's game.
Right.
I didn't mean to say that. Sorry, it's late. Yeah, this is Devin Brown's game. So we have to think about like what are we expecting to see from this guy? Do we believe this guy has really improved that much in a month's time taking all the first team reps? Because let's be real, Michael, I was not impressed with anything I saw from Devin Brown and the short amount of time we saw him during the season. What are your thoughts on that? Because that's really the key to this game and how well he's improved, or maybe he's the same. I don't know. That's the key.
I'm expecting to see solid play out of him. I'm expecting to see a guy who can throw for 250 yards, 240 yards, and move the chains in some key times. A guy that can take the easy 5 to 7 yards that are there during those times that they're there.
Mhm.
And I think just doing that will, be an improvement from Kyle McCord, because you had to play offense the hardest possible way with Kyle McCord as your quarterback. There was nothing easy because he never picked up any of the easy yards. He never, seemed to, do the things that, the little intangible things that keeps an offense moving. So everything had to be done the hardest way possible. And I think that maybe it won't look that much better. Maybe we're not going to be wowed with exactly what we see with Devin Brown right now. But I feel optimistic that he has enough of those little intangible characteristics and those little gamer qualities that he's going to have enough to get it done, to keep the offense moving relatively well. That's what I think.
Yeah, man, that's an enigma there, man. I mean, I guess we're about to have to get into our prediction time here because I mean, we broke this game down as much as we could, backwards and forwards at this point. But again, it really does comes down to the key of Devin Brown. What he's going to do is he's going to be more comfortable. Is he going to be able to throw on time and throw with efficiency? Because in the little bit we saw of him, man, he's he didn't impress me at all. And not only did he impress me with like his lack of accuracy on the medium to short throws, but man,
Mhm.
he looks slow as dirt, like outside of the pocket. And at the end of the day, I truly do believe we had a legit quarterback competition, and Kyle McCord beat him out. And Kyle McCord, I really do believe, I think he was solid and handicapped by poor Ryan Day play calling. I did not
Mhm.
think he was a bad player at all. I think he was, I think he was a solid quarterback. He just wasn't Justin Fields or CJ Stroud, but you can't bank on those types of players all the time. That's just not reality.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, leadership qualities and mentality, have to be factored in, the quote unquote intangibles, the things that
Hmm.
we can't see. And I think that Kyle McCord has proved that he didn't have much of those, just by the very nature that he transferred to Syracuse, that you're the starting quarterback at Ohio State, and you don't have enough confidence. You don't have enough like I can do this, that you're the incumbent starter and you're going to come back and you're going to win your job again and start your senior year. Now you flee and go to Syracuse. I think that says a lot. And I think that the team is more energized with a guy like Devin Brown, who's a little more, I don't think he's cocky. I just think he's a little more confident. I think he's just got a little bit more of a presence about him in the huddle. And I think that kind of thing can make an impact and can, kind of give the team a little bit of juice. And so that's what I'm expecting. That's what I'm expecting. And so I'm not.
Yeah, Michael, let's hear it. I can tell your drum. Let's give Michael a drum roll here.
Okay.
Let's hear your prediction, man. I can tell you're getting into it, man.
I am predicting a very similar. I don't think it's going to be a nail biter. Oh my gosh. Exact same way, the way that it was years ago with Tressel and Arkansas and Ohio State, SEC Big Ten battle. But I'm going to go with a very similar score. In fact, I'm going to go with the exact score of 31-26, Ohio State. I think Ohio State's going to make some noise early. I think they're going to get up, maybe 21-3 or 21-7 or something. I think they're going to get up. And I think that Ryan Day is going to tighten up a little bit as the game goes on. And I think that it's going to get closer and closer, but I think Ohio State's going to have enough of an early lead that they're going to be able to hold on to a win. 31-26 Buckeyes.
Okay. So everything that I've said and I've broken down, we've studied Ohio State. Obviously, we're Ohio State podcasters, but we're Big Ten podcasters and everything too. And we keep an eye on the SEC and stuff. Ohio State's biggest weakness all year was against power personnel, teams that power run, hard play action, this, that, and the other. I remember saying it before the Michigan game. Michigan will be able to run the ball. I think we were one of the few podcasts that said that as good as Ohio State's defense has gotten, Michigan's still going to be able to run the ball because Ohio State is still – they're not the toughest up front, and they're not aggressive in their blitzing schemes. They don't do a lot of run blitzing, and they don't get people behind the lines. But Missouri is not that. They're the complete antithesis of what Michigan is, because Michigan is more power run and, making things easier for J.J. McCarthy. Like, Missouri is pure spread. They are going to spread you out. They want to throw it around. They want to spread you out so their quarterback can run. They want to throw it out of the backfield to their running backs. And, I understand we have Tommy Eichenberg out there, and he's going to be a fish out of water in this game. But for the most part, Ohio State's defense is built to stop teams like Missouri. Our defense, everyone is playing. Jordan Hancock is playing. Denzel Burke is probably going to play. Jermaine Matthews is still out there. We have Igbinosun. Lathan Ransom is not playing. He's still out with an injury. Josh Proctor is playing. Everyone along the defensive line. So this entire defense is playing. And they want to play for their draft stock. They're not playing for Ryan Day. They're playing for themselves, and that's fine. But let's not try and portray this as something it's not. And they're going to give Missouri a lot of problems because Missouri is the type of offense we're good at doing. Now, on offense for Ohio State, I think it is going to be a struggle for Devin Brown. But like I said before, Missouri is without their best not their best running back, their best linebacker, and one of their best secondary players. Devin Brown is going to be a conservative game plan by Ryan Day for Devin Brown. I expect some throws deep because he does throw a nice deep ball, but that's really it that I've seen. But TreVeyon Henderson's going to have his way against this Missouri Tigers defense, Michael. Like, Ohio State's a lot bigger. We're more physical than Missouri. We're so much more talented than they are. I believe our running game with Dallin Hayden and TreVeyon Henderson is going to make the difference on offense. So I am going to go with an Ohio State 34-24 win against the Missouri Tigers.
Okay. Very good. There you have it. I'm excited to see it. We'll be back with some post-game comments with the episode at some point after the game. That'll be coming your way. But until then, we're just looking forward to seeing him play one last time in this 2023 season. And we have enjoyed every bit of this. We've enjoyed, seeing many of you come on and the growth. And we're going to look forward to all kinds of material to go over during the off season as well. But as far as this Cotton Bowl goes, both of us have the Buckeyes beating the Missouri Tigers, finishing the season on a high note, and heading into the off season with some momentum. And so, Jay, that's I believe all we have for the day. Am I right?
I believe so. I was just
Okay.
going to say, Missouri Tigers fans, I know that your guys aren't the biggest fan base, but anybody listening, if we missed something, got something wrong, you had any insights, comment below, man. Comment below. We'll get back to you as best as we can.
Yeah.
Any questions, any concerns we had breaking down your team, but we're slowly growing here. We're eventually going to, obviously, we're a Ohio State podcast, Big Ten podcast second, but eventually down the line, we might just become a Ohio State centric college football podcast and,
Yep.
college sports in general, Michael.
Yep.
Basketball, baseball as well. So we're here for it. Comment below, and we're looking forward to a great game in Dallas.
Sounds good. We'll see you guys next time.
Yep. Merry Christmas, everybody.